Hey, my name is Max, but I'm going to go by Teddybear from now on. And this is a pickup channel. And now I'm going to tell you my story, and I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this as well. Basically, I didn't wind up losing my virginity until I was about 20. It was either 20 or 21. It was actually to a prostitute in Costa Rica. And after, long story as to why that happened. I didn't get laid, in high school, and then I got expelled from my school, and my parents sent me to a place where you basically weren't allowed to touch girls. It's a very complicated thing to explain, but I don't really want to go there. But yeah, basically, long story short, I ended up being a virgin until I was 21, and I mean, if you want, here's one of my first talking points. If you're one of those people who think you need to be good looking or rich to have money, first off, look at this face. Look, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a pretty good looking guy. And, my ex-girlfriend, who I'm gonna show you in a minute, knows I'm a very good looking guy, and that's probably one of the reasons she went out with me. And as far as the money goes, look, this is just a wad of cash that I have. This is like fucking, I don't even know. This is like probably $1,000 right here. See, it's like all 20s and hundreds. I don't even know exactly how much it is. I have cash. I've had cash all my life. So, no, looks and money and whatever don't necessarily mean that you're doing well with girls. So, get that out of your head now. And what basically got me into, what really got me success with girls, or at least someone. I'm not going to say I'm the best. After all, I've only slept with 3 or 4 girls in my life. Granted, I'm 23. Granted, all this has occurred within the last 3 years. But, yeah, what really got me success started out with a book by a guy named David D'Angelo, who is a so-called pickup artist, who I think really changed my life, even although it was probably for a little bit more money than it should have been. One moment, please. This is the binder right here. There's a lot of CDs in here. They're not all in here. This is what one of the CDs looks like. And there's about it's probably close to a day of shit in here. I'd say about a day of DVDs in there. And there's a lot of paper and whatever, but the paper's not really useful. But yeah, I watched this guy's DVD series for a week, and non-stop in college. It was all I did in my free time for that week. And then very promptly after, I got my first girlfriend, who was a black girl, was pretty sexy. And so that was my first girlfriend, and then we moved on to my second girlfriend, who I'm not going to name, because I don't know if she wants that, but let's go to Baby Doll, let's call her. That's what I used to call her all the time. And yeah, that ended up being about a 2.5-year relationship, and we're still best of friends. We broke up for logistical reasons. She was graduating college, and we couldn't find a way to keep together. But yeah, we wanted to get married and shit like that. And granted, we're young, but we really loved each other. And, she was really fucking sexy. And, it all started out with this. I read something else when I was younger, like when I was 16 too. But I didn't really have a time to work on it because of the school I got sent to. But that was, I think it was called The Venetian Arts by Mystery, who is kind of the creator of this movement, I guess you could call it that. He has a show on VH1, Pickup Artist. I don't really know how many people watch that show. I kind of just discovered it myself, actually. It's very, very useful. I recommend watching it. But yeah, I read that too. I didn't find that as helpful as this. But never mind. It's not important. Now, why am I doing these videos? Why I decided to make this new YouTube channel? I only wanted to keep the one. I like the one. So why am I doing this new YouTube channel? Well, I broke up with her about 3 or 4 months ago. I've had sex exactly once since then. And I'm not satisfied with that, because my success with women really defines, my self-esteem. Not just because I'm necessarily insecure, it's more for intellectual reasons. I basically just think it's I subscribe to like Darwinian and Nietzschean thought, really. And my feelings are that if you're just not good with the opposite sex, you just have low evolutionary value and do not exercise your will to power. Let's just call it that. And that's not a position I want to be in. So I feel compelled to do this. And I'm doing this because I think it's going to help me do it, because it allows me to, track what I'm doing, track what I'm saying, and say what my goals are and where I see myself. And the reason I think this is a good idea for anyone, really, is that when you say things like, the phrase words become actions. Like this process has like steps. Like first, these are ideas that circulate in your head, and then these are things you say out loud, and then these are things you say out loud in public and in forums, and it makes it more real. You see what I'm saying? Like, it makes your commitments and whatever you want to do more real, and your progress more real, and yeah. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm hoping if anyone who's having, girl problems, who's interested in my story, and finds this useful, that makes me happy. One thing I would really like to do in my life is I would really like to help people out who have girl problems, because I have a lot of girl problems, and I would really like to help people out like that. But I'm not saying I'm where I want to be. I mean, I was where I wanted to be in terms of statistics. Like, some people called her a perfect 10. I didn't really consider her a perfect 10. I consider her extremely fine. But some people consider her a perfect 10, and, I was very content with that. She was a genius, too. She played violin perfectly, like a virtuosi, or I don't know the genders in Italian, but, yeah, she was great. But, as a result of that 3-year relationship, I didn't, approach girls, she and I just kind of secluded ourselves in our own world, and I lost all my social skills, I lost all my game, and I lost all my style and whatever. And so I'm doing this to, get it back. I actually just made friends with a pickup artist. I don't really want to go into details of that. A monetary transaction was involved, let's just say. And, I figure that this is going to be me tracking my progress. I think this is going to be something that helps me get to where I want to be. And even though I'm not unhappy with where I am, I'm not 100% satisfied. And, I want to consistently and reliably get with girls as beautiful as my ex-girlfriend. And that would be nice. So, yes, final thoughts. If you're interested by this story at all, or have girl problems, and would just like to know more, well, one, you could message me and we could talk. Two, you could type David D'Angelo's name. Yeah, I'm gonna be a free market whore. I'm just gonna tell you how I did it. It's not that he's paying me or shit like that. I didn't like Mystery's book when I read it. I thought it was way too canned. But when I saw him teaching people in this VH1 show, it really makes a lot more sense what he's trying to do when you see it in context. So I wouldn't recommend his book or anything like that, but if you could see a seminar or DVD series with him, I really like it. You could also just type in the names of people on YouTube and you'll see their free shit. I mean, right now I'm never gonna buy anything from anyone again. There's so much free shit on YouTube, which is all I need. All I need to get where I want to be. And you don't even really have to pay money. It's probably all just floating around on YouTube anyway. But, yeah, just type in, this is the guy I found who's been the most helpful to me so far in the 3 days that I've decided to rededicate my life to this. That's a guy named David Wygant, or Wigant. I don't know how to pronounce it. But, what he says makes the most logical sense. It relies the least on scripted material. And, the way I kind of see this thing is that I'm very, my IQ scores are fairly high. I've tested as high as 125, so I consider myself a pretty smart guy. And so understanding things at an intellectual level is extremely important to me if I'm going to, act upon them and incorporate them in my worldview. And so basically, the most useful stuff for me that I try to work with is stuff that I can intellectually understand and that makes sense to me in order to realize this objective of hooking up with hot girls. And the stuff like the canned material, which is what Mystery really specializes in, best canned material, for example, you know, is what you use to fill in the gaps. It's what you use to fill in the uncertainties and the things you have questions on that you don't yet understand. Just know that it's like the tried and true method. Like, for example, imagine that you're an NFL scout, and, you know, evaluating quarterbacks is always, like, iffy, but there are some objective things that you always know, and the rest you have to go by. Like, for example, high Wonderlic score is probably good, height is probably very good, and so, you know, just use, like, the tricks of the trade are all that canned material. And that's what you should be using, like, the canned material for. But if you really want someone to help out your intellectual paradigm, the two people I would recommend are, once again, Dave D'Angelo, but more so David Wyatt. I just think this guy's phenomenal. Except he charges a lot of money for all the shit, which is fucking obnoxious. But, yeah, that's it. I hope you liked my first video. It's Teddybear, out.